Okay, this video is about the whole evolution of Constructor. You know, from when we initially thought of it, you know, really from when we first released it, through to the present, and then flowing on into the future, like what we see coming. You know, what we're able to deliver to make, you know, water-fed window cleaning faster, better, safer. There's money in glass if you clean it fast.
What is different about the Constructor with colors versus the generation before that?
Okay, there's loads of things that are different about it. Firstly, we changed the image. So we put the carbon fiber wrap on it, which gives us the ability to highlight the color. We've put this carbon fiber wrap over the aluminum because that then highlights the colors. We just felt that that makes a fantastic difference. In fact, Larry Crook from Connecticut suggested that idea to us, and I think it's really proven to be very beautiful. The second thing, what we did is we've actually changed the hydro blades quite a bit, and one of the things that we found was that there's certain frames that people in certain areas were hitting, and that basically they were hitting this outside jet, and it was a right angle hit. So we've got a little ramp in there, so if somebody actually does go to hit a frame, then the ramp will, you know, push the brush down or whatever, but it won't actually hit the jet at right angles. The next thing we did in preparation for something which is coming in the future is that we reduced the size of the holes, the orifices of each jet, and by doing that we were able to bring back the every jet open as part of the standard. So that these brushes are now going out with every jet open, whereas the generation before that we had, in most cases, we had every second jet open or every third jet open.
So you mentioned something to do with what's coming out next.
Yeah, so what's coming in the future, there's loads of things. So like the most exciting one is actually chemical Constructor, but we'll talk about that separately. But to add to Constructor as it is now, one of the things that we hear is that people, really our opposition sort of pushes this fact that we use plastic, you know, to make these jets or whatever. And it's true that some people have actually hit frames and, you know, had some damage, but out of the 6,000 Constructor brushes out there, there's only a few that have actually had this damage. So this is a 3D print of what's coming next. There's actually a silicone case which will go over the hydroblade jets like so, and it'll just clip onto the brush like this. Now its real function is not just to defend the jets,
because it's not really a big issue.
No.
I think you mentioned it just then as if it was a huge issue because it's one of the design changes.
Right.
But it's not actually a big issue. It's happened to a couple of cases.
It's a handful of people, but I think that the art of design is actually to take the roughest person and the finest person and make a product that works the same for everybody.
Yeah.
So in thinking of putting the silicone cover over the top, we already had a bumper bar on the other style, the first generation of hydro blades.
What is the silicone cover?
So the silicone cover then creates a bumper which means that there's no more plastic, you know, being able to be exposed.
But what does it actually do?
Right, what it actually does is that because there's a cavity in here, we're actually able to put a plug in there, and we're able to say, okay, if you don't have any plugs in there, then you can have every jet open. But I've got one here, like you can't really see on camera, but I'll have a look at this one here. So if you can see, you'll see that some of those holes are actually blocked. So as an operator, you'll be able to set these up with every second jet open, every third jet open, every fourth jet open.
Why would I need to do that? As an operator, why would I need to have every second jet open or every jet open?
Right, so because the whole issue of rinse bars is that we're basically going from two pencil jets or 4 pencil jets, and we're going, for example, you know, to 20 pencil jets or 30 or 40 pencil jets, like hydroblade jets or rinse bar jets. And so if you've got, the whole relationship is about, you know, how many jets are open, how much pressure you've got at the spigot or at the pump, and then how much resistance you have.
So we're talking how much water we've got on site?
No. Because it's a relationship between pressure and flow, not how much water there is. Flow is actually a constant. So whatever the flow is what the flow is, and it's a relationship between pressure and resistance, or back pressure. So what we have to do is balance that, and because because we're encouraging people to use larger brushes, wider brushes to cover more glass with each stroke, then what happens is that the dynamics of how much water is being used, how much pressure is available, the velocity of the water through the jets, all of that is being changed from job to job. So to balance that, we've got the ability where the operator can actually say, okay,
on site, go.
On site.
I've got too many jets open.
yep,
I need to reduce that because there's not enough water coming out of the jets.
yeah, there's not enough velocity. The water might be enough, but there's not enough velocity.
And I think that's I think that's where it gets confusing for well, for me, but let's say some of the people are like that.
Completely.
Where it's when you say there's enough water, but there's not enough water.
Yes.
Right?
And not enough velocity.
Yeah, but I think when you say not enough water, I think you mean it in a scientific term, versus what I'm saying is like when the water comes out of the brush and it's dribbling out.
Yes.
To me, I would say that's not enough water.
Right.
Why am I wrong?
Well, because if you simply block every second hole, the same amount of water would come out, but it will come out faster, and you need it to go faster to get over the bristles.
So it's really the distance in which, like how fast my water is coming out of my jets.
Correct. So your squirt is determined by velocity.
Which is the distance.
Yes.
And almost, could you say the pressure?
No, the pressure. So that basically you've got resistance, and then so you imagine the garden hose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a garden hose, and you hold it like this, and it's just open, and then the water will just drip out, right? But you don't say I haven't got enough water, right? The water is there. So then you start to put your thumb over it and you squeeze it and squeeze it. So you close the orifice, right? The hole. And as you squeeze it, the water goes faster through that hole. And then in going faster, it squirts further. So its velocity determines the distance.
So really, in order for me to say it correctly then, it would say like the water that's coming out of my jets in my brush is not squirting far enough?
Yes. That would be a layman's way. It's not squirting far enough.
It's not squirting far enough because when you get to a job site, you've got to be able to look at the brush, see with the water that's coming out of the brush, and you go, that's not fast enough. That's not far enough.
Yeah. Yes.
In order for me to clean the window.
In the event that you have a problem. Now the reality is that there's very few. There's very few problems out there. So what we're talking about is the exception, but we want to. That exception is going to happen to everybody.
When you said problems there, what do you mean?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so what I'm thinking you're meaning is there's very few sites that a window cleaner will take a water-fed brush on, that is a constructor brush, with hydro blade, that he won't be able to clean the glass.
Correct. But if he, like same with traditional tools, he's going to come across things that don't come off the glass or whatever like that. So there's always the exception. And what we're trying to do is, making sure that constructor brush can cater for the exception rather than somebody going, oh, I can't use constructor brush.
Yeah, so most jobs out of the box, plug and play, the brush is going to work.
Correct. Especially if it's a 12-inch. The smaller the brush is, the less jets are open, so the more velocity you're going to have, the further the water's going to squirt. Not that we want it to squirt so far, by the way. It's a relationship. If you go back to a standard, broom-style brush with 2 jets, then this is going to have to come off the glass to rinse. So you want the water to squirt, 3 feet or a meter.
In order for the speed of the water that's hitting the glass to not bounce?
No, because you've taken the brush so far away from the glass, and now you've got an off-glass rinse. So you can't have it just squirting this far. So if it's only squirting this far with pencil jets, you'd say that's not far enough. But with constructor, if it squirts this far, it's perfect because it only has to get over the top of the bristles.
Yes.
So with pencil jets, we're going to close and have more resistance, close the holes or have less holes so that the water squirts further, the same amount of water going through constructor, the same volume. We can have more jets open, and the end result of more jets open is that it doesn't squirt as far, but because we're doing on-glass rinse, it's a balance.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of like a misnomer, but the guys who come from using broom-style brushes to using hydroblade, some of them don't understand that they don't need the water to squirt 3 feet in order for it to rinse. Yeah.
What are the other misconceptions about constructor brush? with this generation or any previous generations?
Look, there's some keywords that are used about Constructor, essentially fed by our competitors. One is fiddly, right? Now, fiddly was actually true, because when we released Constructor, I just found this, before, but when we released Constructor the very first time, if you remember, we actually sent it out like this without this bristle in here.
Oh, you had to assemble.
You had to actually put it together yourself.
So what it was a base aluminum block, the end caps. Then it was what we called cannons, which were multiple jets with tube in between them, but there was about an inch apart.
Yep, they were an inch apart.
And then you also had the bristles, so you actually had to construct the constructor, which is why the name constructor was invented.
A pack of bristles, and guys would make their own brushes.
Like a build your own brush.
It was a build your. Well, that was one of the names we thought of, right?
Yeah, build a brush.
It was build a brush. One of the
build a bear.
Yeah, so we canned that one. But so when you think about that, the guys that got involved with us, from May 2015 and bought the original Constructor brushes, their perception of Constructor is correct. But you compare that to now.
Well, it's correct on a timeline.
Yes.
Like historically, it was correct up until.
But if they haven't renewed or followed or whatever, then it's still correct to them.
True, but it's correct because they've got an old. Their ideas of an old Constructor.
So we've talked about what Constructor looked like at the very beginning. And now when you have a look at it, it's fully assembled before it didn't even have side to side on it. Mm-hmm. Now it's got side to side on it, it's fully assembled. And even sitting behind the scenes, the end caps are pre-assembled. So if somebody wanted to replace the end caps, then they'd actually get a fully assembled set of end caps with Hydroblade in them.
So why is that not fiddly?
Well, because before you have to actually, work out if this is an A, a B, a C, and an A and a B, and work them out.
Which was
and
the
then
names
fill
for
them
the channels that we were putting in there.
Yeah, and then you'd have to line them all up. Now it's pre-assembled, so bit by bit we're making it less fiddly, more simple. But the reason why we still have stuck with pre-making end caps and having replaceable end caps with bristles in it is because what actually destroys a brush is it rubbing against the frame. The bristles that go across the glass have got no issues unless you're on cut-ups.
You mean like in the middle of the brush?
In the middle of the brush. These bristles here are just running up and down on glass, yeah? So these bristles are getting scrubbed up on the frame. So I felt that rather than having to go and buy a whole new brush, all you'd have to do is buy, for $20 you could just buy a set of end caps. And now when you do buy the set of end caps, they've already got the bristles in them.
So you bring up an interesting point there. What is the current state of perishables in the window cleaning tools? In the window cleaning industry? Yeah,
but so there you talk about in almost in every industry is the principle of built-in obsolescence, like designing something to fail.
Yes, that's the word I meant.
Why does somebody do that? Well, because it's really hard to run a business into 7 figures and sustain it in 7 figures if nothing fails. So no, you've got to get new business.
So you mean you have to keep selling to a new customer?
Yes.
Every time.
Or make a new product that you can sell to your existing customer.
What's a similar situation in a different industry?
The microwave oven is probably the classic. Sharp invented the microwave oven, and those of us who are old enough to have had a Sharp microwave 20 years later were still using the Sharp microwave.
Yeah.
And so Sharp, that division of Sharp, really lost its momentum and its market share when I think it was Panasonic or somebody came out with a really, really cheap microwave that only lasted for 3 years.
Yeah.
So people thought it was the same. They were happy with 3 years out of it. Then it had a problem and failed, so they went and bought another cheap one.
Yes.
And that's that consumerism running. So the same happens, if you go to broom style brushes. I mean, when these bristles here are all scrubbed up and and finished, then you just throw that whole thing away and go and get another one. That's good for business for the manufacturer. It's fantastic business for the reseller.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Constructor's not built around that, and Reagent is not built around that because we believe in probably more the German style of manufacturing or Apple's. If you go back to the other one, it might be Nokia. Like if you bought a Nokia phone going back before Apple, Nokia had 80% of the world's mobile phone market, and you signed up a 2-year contract, and by 18 months you hated it. You couldn't read the numbers on it, starting to fail, creaking and twisting, and a reseller was able to ring you up and say, hey, you're at 21 months. If you sign again for another 24 months, we'll forgive the last 3 months of this contract.
Yeah.
So they were designed to last 18 months on a 2-year contract.
So talk about the consumer's drill.
Oh, so really the beginning of consumerism, yeah? So if you go back, to the generation before me, if my dad had bought a drill, right, then he would have had a metal housing, and when he bought it, he could have passed it on to me, and I would have been able to pass it on to you, and you would have been able to pass it on to your son, subject to the electrical cable not getting frayed or something, and that drill would last forever. It was a workman's tool, which my dad would have bought or whatever.
Built to last 2,000 times, or something like that. And
then this dude from GMC, he worked out and says, well, actually, how many times does dad use a drill, right? And he worked out that the average dad would use a drill 4 times a year. So, and when would he be happy to replace it? Well, after 3 years, he probably would think, it's not so bad. So if he uses it 4 times a year for 3 years, he's only got to use it 12 times, and he's going to be happy to buy a new drill.
Yep.
Right. So that's when those Black & Deckers and the low cost drills, and GMC was the big brand. They started producing these low cost drills, which maybe to save their position maybe worked for 50 times or 100 times, but nothing like what a carpenter would have to do. So the Makita maintained its place as industrial tools, for professionals, and then the other brands gravitated towards consumer tools, right, which are not suitable for professionals and would fail.
So, there's a common trend in the industry that tools are designed for janitorial.
Yes, I believe.
And sold to professional.
Yes, because you look at the Unger and Ederay,
which is how I relate to what you just were talking about there.
Right.
Which is you've got the professional grade and you've got the not professional grade, and it's sold to a home, a dad who's only going to use it a couple of times a year, and it doesn't really even matter that much because he's happy with that.
Yeah, you can say, I think there's probably 3 categories. There's dollar shop, which is mum and dad. Then there's janitorial, which is irregular use.
Yeah.
So let's say, the window cleaning, the guy who's going to do the window cleaning and janitorial is probably going to do it once a month, 12 times a year. Yeah. And that's quite different to the guy who's a professional who's going to be using this tool full time, every day, 7 days a week in peak season, 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day or 14 hours a day in peak season.
Yeah.
So then his tool is going to get, so much more wear and tear, than the janitorial guy would. So that's why, and there are so many more janitors. So from a manufacturing point of view, the companies that have gone into the janitorial market, it makes much more sense for them to make a janitorial level tool, but it doesn't make any sense for them to service the professional market with truly professional tools.
Because how big is the professional market?
It's not big enough to sustain.
In comparison, as much as we think that, let's say there's 6,000 window cleaners. As much as we think that's a big number, there's 7 billion people on the planet.
Yes, but and it goes differently also because you want your company to be a legacy company. We want Reach to go on to you and to Ollie and to your son and things like that. In order for it to have legacy, you have to continue to expand it. Can't stay the same size. So we grow, more than 50% per year. So you go, okay, even if we saturate the entire professional market and every single professional used to reach it, right? Then where do we go from there? We can release more tools, or we can go into the janitorial market and say, okay, well, here's Reach It for janitorial.
Yes.
And then continue to expand the business. And that's where Unger is an 80-year-old company. It was forced, it may have intended and started the same way as us, to service the niche of professionals, mastered it, and then in order to continue to grow and become like the massive organization that it is now, it had to go and find more market.
Yeah.
And now you can find it on Amazon.com and in Home Depot and Walmart. There's Unger gear in there.
Yeah. Big
for
company.
mum and dad.
Let's say I'm a window cleaner. In a small window cleaning business, maybe, let's say 1 vehicle.
Yep.
Right? How does that affect me?
it affects you based on the principles of consumerism. You're going to buy products that you have to replace more, I think. Pardon me. And secondly, that they're not, like the current design of, for example, Unger, which I hold in highest regard.
Yeah.
Right. The current design came out in 2012, and it's been
current design of specifically
of their water-fed pole range, the Inlight range, and their brushes. Like this brush here was designed in 2012. It's still available today, 2018. Exactly the same brush, nothing changed.
Yeah.
Their poles, nothing changed. Right. And so as you get to that, and we may end up there one day, but as you get to that corporate level, where catalogs, brochures, websites, Amazon, like everybody, all the resellers, like they don't want change.
Yeah,
they don't want improvement. They just want a product that they can put on the website and it'll just sell.
So with that in mind, why do we change so much?
Well, because we service the niche. Like we say, reach it for professionals was our tagline for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. Now we say, faster, better, safer. But it was reach it for professionals because in 2016 we stopped selling through distributors and we went direct to end user, direct to the professional window cleaner. And that was a massive shift for Reach It, because when you're selling to somebody, whether you're selling a service or a product, what your goal is to satisfy your customer. Now, if we sell to distributors, they want their margin. That's what they want. They want 50% or 45%, right? So if they want 50%, you're going to give them $2,000 for a water-fed pole system, and they're going to take $1,000 and give the manufacturer $1,000. And out of that $1,000, he has to make a competitive product, that's able to compete with the other products. And that's why there's been no development in the industry for 30 years. So when we switched to being direct to end user, direct to professional window cleaners, what happened is that we
had all this money.
Well, we had a lot of money.
I think it's a big thing.
But that's not the focus. The focus is that our customer was a window cleaner, and we focused on. But as of that point, our customer was the window cleaner, and what does our customer want? They don't want margin, right? What they want is efficiency. They want to work faster, better, safer. Those are the things they want. And so, as a designer, as a tool designer, my focus switched. It became much more laser sharp that my function, my role, right, to them is to design and continue to improve, with being the essence of this question, continue to improve the product to deliver faster, better, safer, faster, better, safer, faster, better, safer.
Yeah, that's our design
mantra.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And so then we know that distributors don't like things that change because they have to change their manuals and their catalogs. I mean, they print a catalog and it lasts for a year or 2 years. So they print a catalog, and that catalog they have to keep for a year or 2 years. So they can't change anything in that year.
Yeah.
Like right now,
when we were working with the distributors, we had to launch our products by a certain point. And they told us that we were not allowed to change them, we were not allowed to update them, even if we have great ideas that's easy to add on, because they weren't able to list those products in the catalog.
Correct. And with window cleaning, the major product choice tool is still a paper-based catalog.
Wait, say that again?
The major product choice tool, the way window cleaners choose their tools and reference which tools, most tradespeople, it's not just window cleaners, right, is that they go to a catalog and they flick through the catalog and they read the catalog, right? So that's amazing. That's what makes it that you can't change a product in a year. Like a year's a long time. Like we get a lot of feedback in a year.
We change the product.
We upgrade. Like we've got a load of upgrades coming to Constructor this year, but we're going to roll them out. And the thing with Reach It is, and the thing with Constructor Brush, and the reason why Constructor Brush is so amazing is because we designed it with this in mind, that the product is going to evolve, we're going to learn more and more, we're going to get more information from users, and then we're going to be able to change it and develop it and modify it and grow it. Like it's an amazing product, and it's evolved so much, and it's changed the way windows are cleaned now, like forever.
So this is the latest generation of Constructor. It's got color, it's full color.
Yes.
So now all the colors match each other. What is different about this generation in comparison to its industry competitors? if helpful, what makes this product better or stand out in the crowd?
Right. So I don't think it has so much in the way of competitor.
What do you
but
mean?
Well, there are things you could say now that, like, if this was a Tucker brush,
so it doesn't have
6 months ago, it doesn't have genuine competitors. But if you say what has it got in common with other ones, well, 6 months ago or 3 months ago, or actually 2 weeks ago at the time of this recording, this was a Tucker brush. Let's say this is actually a retro, but it was based around this principle. And now there's a bolt-on rinse bar, which some people are being led to believe is the same as a hydroblade, right? So we can say, okay, from a rinse bar point of view, what's different? Well, and everybody else's rinse bars, they'll always want to put a rinse bar to the edge. But there's a problem if you put a rinse bar to the edge, and that is that when you go up to the top, you're going to wet above the bristle, so you're going to introduce dirt into your rinse water. So you have to angle a brush in order to keep the water from the jets off the top, off above where you've agitated.
Why do you not want to have water above where you've agitated?
So if you put water above where you've agitated, then there's dirt there, and that dirt comes into your rinse and leaves spots.
So let's define that a little bit better. Above where you agitated, you mean we do not want to rinse the top frames?
Of course you want to. No, of course. One of the benefits of water fed over traditional window cleaning is that we can clean the frames. With water fed. When we make our videos, we use the frame as a line that people can see. So we say, okay, if you don't wet the frame, and we can show them that we haven't wet the frame with Constructor Brush.
Yes.
So we deal with that. But in actual fact, most water fed window cleaners and most constructor users will actually wash the frames, right? But above the frame is another piece of dirty something. So that's why we say where we agitate. Wherever you
like
agitate
the wall of the building. Let's give some concrete examples.
But window cleaners are listening, so they know what windows look like. So so if the residential frames are usually flat, commercial frames stick out. So and we're mostly talking about residential. Is that if he's agitated to there, and then he rinses like this and the water goes there, then whatever that is, doesn't matter what it is, but whatever that is has got dirt on it, and it's going to fall into your rinse and leave spots on the glass. So for the last 3 years, people have asked me to take the jets all the way to the end, but I know that's wrong. And the right answer is actually to put the jets in the middle, so that when you get to the corners, you still want water in the corner. So you want to be able to agitate into the corner and rinse the corner. Now that can only be done by having jets in the middle going into the corner. It can never be done by having jets to the outside edge, because if that was a square and you go into a corner,
marker.
Oh, I've got the marker here. Good idea. So if this is your corner, and you can use this, and you go across like this, and you go into the corner, you can never get the jet into the corner. If you want to get the jet into the corner, you go like this, and then you wet above the frame. Or wet above your agitation zone. So that's why we've sustained and maintained the principle of having, now we've put hydroblade in there, which gives us like a perfect flow and a controlled flow. Right, into the corners.
And you want to demonstrate that one more time here? And we'll throw up some video with like water actually coming out on an actual window, so that you can actually see.
We've got the coloured water demos, which also cover this. So it's really just the logic of what is the difference, rather than this being a training.
That was not for training. No, but that was the video I was going to jump in the edit.
Sweet. Okay, so that basically, you go across the corner. You want the jets to be in the corner in order to rinse out the corner. Yeah. Otherwise, you got a dirty corner.
So, what job would you recommend to use a Constructor Brush on?
Oh well, I think to answer that, you've really got to go back and talk about what happened with traditional tools. And traditional tools, if you think about the evolution of the mop. So if when Irregular Use came out with the squeegee, there was a mop. I think it was lamb's wool back then. And so over time you've got the current mop, and then if that doesn't agitate well enough, then guys go to what's called a porcupine, and it's got little nylon bristles stitched into the mop. And if that doesn't work, if that won't get the concretions, excretions and pollutions off the glass in a reasonable number of strokes, namely 2, then the guy will go to a white doodle bug non-scratch pad. If that doesn't work, then he'll go to 000 or quadruple zero steel wool, and he'll use that and agitate.
So he's just getting more and more aggressive in the agitation.
And if that doesn't work, he'll go to a stainless steel blade and he'll blade the glass. But the professional window cleaner has a series of tools that he uses in his toolkit that are increasingly more aggressive in order to get the concretions, excretions, and pollutions off the glass in a reasonable amount of time, because it's his time that he is his money, right?
Yep.
Now, so you take that across into Constructor Brush, and what we've done is we've stood against this huge wave of belief that you should have a universal brush.
The point is, everyone says one brush cleans all, but
yes,
it doesn't clean at the same speed.
No, and it doesn't clean all.
Okay.
So it just can't. So if this is a retro or a Tucker style, broom style brush, then, you know, Unger will bring out this and say, well, this is our brush. IPC has got Speedy Clean or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Gardner's got a range of brushes. We brought out in the beta brush pack before Constructor, you know, we brought out 17 different brushes to try and work out if there was a universal brush, which led to Constructor Brush. So what we did is that because we have Constructor Brush and we can slide in and out any type of bristle, so we've got different bristles for different conditions. So this one's really fine and this one's really coarse. And so we have, you know, for example, we have Swift, which is really fine and glides across storefront windows.
Mm-hmm.
Original All-Rounder is our, you know, the brush that we put out with our poles. That's this little fella here. And then if this doesn't work, then we have Beast, which is made of boar's hair, and
Yep.
a little bit, we're putting a bit of nylon in there as well. And then if Beast doesn't work, then we go to what we have released in 2017 is Bronze Brush, which has got a Velcro pad in the middle of it, which allows you to put the 3M Doodlebug non-scratch white pad,
so there's a lot of options.
Bronze wool, and then the next step is to go to like a stainless steel type pad, which we're
Mm-hmm.
developing right now. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to have chemical, like Constructor chemical.
And when you say that doesn't work, what are you actually saying?
Well, it may be that the concretion, excretion, or pollution doesn't come off the glass at all. By the way, Peter Thomas wrote to us yesterday saying he's using our stainless steel bristles and he didn't scratch the glass as we predicted, and it took like crazy stuff off the glass. So the principle that of dealing with the efficiency of the window cleaner is the primary focus of manufacturing and design. The principle is that we want to have the least number of strokes on the glass and get the same result.
With that in mind, what do you think is the shortest time a brush needs to stay on the glass?
The shortest time let's say, what I could say is, you know, from my internal thinking is that the holy grail is the shortest amount of time a brush needs to stay on a glass. And the answer is up, down, off. Now, I don't know if it's possible. I mean, I do believe it's possible on some glass.
Well, it's possible. That's possible on a regular clean.
Yeah,
right up now with an Extractor Brush, that is possible.
Correct.
So now we're talking about the categories
of
there's
a definition
concretions that need to.
There's a definition to that. The brush, the splayed brush, or the brush has to be exactly the same width as the glass in order for that to be the case. So we've got guys like Kai Chen, Louis Riez, who have actually cut brushes. Paul-Andre Bichet in Montreal, he was the first guy to do it. So we've actually cut brushes to the exact width of a pane of glass that's repeated over and over and over again in a building complex.
Yeah.
So Paul-Andre Bichet earned $3,800 in a 13-hour day, one man. And the way he did it is he took his constructor. In fact, many of the things that are coming out in 2018 was Paul-Andre Bichet on that day. He took his constructor, he cut it to the exact width of the glass. In actual fact, what he did is he cut the aluminum to the width of the glass, and the end caps, instead of being longer to go into the corners, he actually cut them shorter to go over the frames. So he was able to clean the frames at the same time on both sides as the main channel bristles were cleaning the glass. So he also added jet holes into the bottom of the brush so that in his downstroke he's got loads of water to pull the dirty water off the glass, and he had but in those days it was Constructor cannons. He had the cannons across the top to leave the water on the glass. And he did $3,800 day, one guy. You know, that opened my eyes.
Well, that is as you mentioned just then. That is where that is the example that we've been copying or being inspired by.
Yes.
Discovering from how to clean windows insanely fast.
Yes, insane. Where other people will say it's not possible. So at the moment you'd say that the holy grail is up, down, off, and that the target is up, down, off. And so by up, down, off, what I mean is that if
you're not going to be able to see that. Oh, maybe from that camera.
From that camera, yeah. If that's halfway down the glass, if I can take a brush that's over half the width of the glass, then I can go up to the center, across to the corner, and down the left side, up to the center, across the corner, and down the right side.
And that window's done.
And that window is actually clean. It's agitated and rinsed. Now, if I need to do that twice, in order to, it's the first time I'll wet the glass and there might be marks and stuff like that, then I would go up to the corner, up to the center, down to the corner, and down the left frame again, up to the center, across to the corner, and down the right side again. And now I've been over the glass twice.
Yep.
Now, the maths behind that, which people say, well, that doesn't make sense, but if you're a traditional window cleaner, you ask any traditional window cleaner, how many times does their mop go over the glass before they pull their squeegee out, and take that dirty water off the glass? Storefronts, regular cleans is once, and most other jobs is twice.
Yeah.
So it completely makes sense as long as you've got bristle coverage.
Well, as long as the agitation of the brush can match the agitation of the mop.
Yes.
Or exceed it.
And what's amazing is because Constructor uses bristle blades, we don't drill holes and spread them out. So if you have a look at, like a broom style brush, there's basically pods of bristles, drilled out. And then if you want to make the brush, like this brush here has a third of the bristles of this brush here. So this brush has got 3 times more bristles that in a single stroke will disturb
of bristle
and
tips.
dislodge.
And there's levels to this, because the bristles actually push out, whereas the bristle tips on this one.
Yes. Basically when this brush compresses, the sides of the bristles on the underside, the sides of the bristles are on the glass, not the tips, right? So here, all of these bristles are lying on top of the bottom bristles, and so the brush is splaying like that. Whereas Constructor is a triple trim brush, and no matter how hard you press it, you can't get it to compress any further than the inside trim, because it's a really rigid bristle.
Which holds the bristle tips
compels the bristle tips to stay on the glass. And now we cut those bristles at an angle so that they're not sitting on top of the other bristles. They're actually all on the glass.
Now all bristle tips.
Yeah.
And the color Constructor.
Yes, on the outside edges are cut are trimmed at an angle so that all the bristles are on the glass. So we can increase. I mean, the little things that nobody ever know unless you ask me right now. But that we're looking to increase the contact of bristles to the glass to dislodge concretions, excretions, and pollutions.
Okay, so brush agitation 101.
Yeah.
What cleans the glass?
The bristle tips. On a nylon brush, the bristle tips. On a boar's hair brush, the tips of the bristles and the sides of the bristles are both. What happens with boar's hair? It soaks up 30% of its weight back in water, and then it becomes soft, because anything which soaks up water becomes soft. And then as it becomes soft, it drags on the glass, and because it drags on the glass, it has got more agitation. But the downside of that, why that's not normally a go-to brush, is it also requires more effort because it's dragging on the glass. So the guy's got to work harder to get a boar's hair brush to work than he would, with these bristles just gliding across the glass.
That makes sense to me. So you've mentioned a bunch of times that there are more updates to come later in 2018. Why, as a window cleaner, would I buy one today?
Oh, great question. Okay, so we talk about opportunity cost, but let's draw a parallel. Why did you buy an iPhone 4 and not wait for an iPhone 10? Why did you buy an iPhone 10 and not wait for an iPhone 15? So the products are always in development. If you're talking about technology, there's a thing called technology...
The 5 stages of technology adoption.
The 5 stages of technology adoption, there you go. And it looks like, let me just rub that off.
There you go.
So it looks like a standard bell curve. So basically it looks like this, and this is your innovator, yeah? These are guys right at the start. Now, for Reach It, there's guys like Eric Gilliand, Larry Crook, there's a bunch of guys. Chris Dorber helped us. Will Hill helped us. He's not even a window cleaner. But these are the guys who actually sow these ideas. These are the guys that bought the
original constructor.
Yeah.
Those are those guys.
Yeah. It's between these and the early adopter, because the early adopter is the first buyer, right?
It's the second stage.
Yeah. These innovators are sitting continually in, because this bell curve is not a single curve. It runs again and again and again through all the different models. Yeah. So think of app developers, right? Yeah. What they can develop for an iPhone 10 is so different to what they could have developed for an iPhone 3S.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are the early adopters. This is the stage of the market that we're at. Then there's the what do they call them?
The major.
The early majority.
Early majority.
Yeah. So this is the early majority, and this is where we are now with rinse bars. When you watch our competitors concede that we're over this phase, that we've perfected the product to a point where the whole market is starting to say, I want it.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is innovator. This is pre-2015. This is 2015. This is 2018.
Yes.
And then 2021
will be the late
majority. That's where everybody goes, oh shit, like I can't even.
And then for everyone to see, you're gonna have to move back.
Yeah. And I'll just tell the story. So this is the laggard, right? Now the laggard is the guy who will go out and buy a brand new iPhone 4 now, when the 10 is out.
Well, it's like, look, it's tried and true. It's proven.
Yes.
It works. A smartphone works.
Yes.
And I can make phone calls on it, and
yes.
They'll be cool to read my email.
Yeah, and he won't go and buy an iPhone 10 because face recognition is unproven. He wants a password. He doesn't want fingerprint.
Yeah.
He doesn't want face recognition. There's too much new stuff in an iPhone 10, so he can't even jump in on the evolution of the iPhone.
It's almost like the thing that he gets is, oh, that's easy for me to understand.
Yes, and there's no arguments left, right?
Yeah.
When there's no arguments left, the laggard buys. Now, we're not interested in the laggard. That's not a Reach It customer. We're not interested in the late majority. We're interested in the early majority and the early adopter. These are the innovator, like through this repeating bell curve. The innovator is what's driving. Larry Crook has given us a lot of the aesthetics of the current constructor. Philip Sutton was the guy who suggested that we take the top bristle blade out because it left more room for the rinse to happen. So there's all sorts of guys. Eric Gilliand is well in there with us. Larry Crook has got a whole lot of other ideas that he's helping us with for 2018.
And then as a different product, Richie Blue with the gunslinger.
He's here. He's innovative.
He's here. We're not talking gunslinger today, but just wanted to throw him in the mix.
Yeah. So there's the innovator will invent the product or design the product and its future evolutions. So it's not just a single bell curve. The early adopter is the people who take it up. The people who bought Constructor when it was like this, some of them shouldn't have bought it because they weren't early adopters in a real sense. Because early adopters are prepared to take the risk. Early adopters will always report problems and not hold it against the company that there is a problem.
Yeah.
Like app developers. You've got with Apple, you're in their beta
program
right.
for all their software.
So beta.
So it comes out to me 4 months before it comes out to anyone else.
Yeah, you and all the beta guys.
And all the beta guys, right?
So that's how they treat early adopter. They know that the beta guys are forgiving of what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And the early majority, it comes into play when nothing can go wrong, right? So we've got Constructor to the point now where guys are going, okay, like it looks like you've sorted everything out. Yeah, so now the early majority can buy a Constructor, and the people who belong here that bought here are the ones who go, Constructor doesn't work, Constructor's fiddly, Constructor's this, Constructor's that. Because what they experienced was this very first generation of a product that didn't exist, other than in my mind and the minds of all the guys who are around you and me, that helped us crystallize an idea and turn it into a reality.
With that in mind, define opportunity cost in relation to my hourly rate as a window cleaner.
Right, so if you're, let's say you want to be in the early majority, you only want to buy things that are fixed. Like the British, like for example, as a market, like we pulled out of the British market because the British are not, there's very few early adopters in there. They're not forgiving for the evolution of a product. The British say, if it's not right, why would you sell it to me? Right? So that's a very early majority, late majority, and laggard type mentality. And it's a really old country, right? So what happens? Cost. Yeah, if you bought here, you've got an opportunity. And when we first brought out Constructor, we were able to say it's 2 times faster than a Broom style brush. If you buy a Constructor today, it's 4 times faster than a Broom style brush. And how did we get it from 2 times to 4 times? Well, it's simple. We just learnt more about it, and then we ended up with a Reagent Technique. So it's a tool with a technique, or a product with a process. And once we were able to combine the technology of the product as well as the technology of using it, how to use it, and the training of how to use it, we were able to increase the speed of it, because we actually knew how to get the brush across glass faster, and we realized how to put a bigger brush on glass, how to divide the glass up. It's knowledge, yeah? But that's like the iPhone is not that much different on the inside, but it's the apps that make it different. More apps, more amazing, more technology. So if you were an early adopter and you mastered 2 times faster, then let's say your charge out rate is $75 an hour or $60 to $75 an hour as a traditional window cleaner. And then all of a sudden you can get a Reach It with a Constructor, and it's in its early stages, and in those days guys would have to repair them from time to time and things like that, but they're still working 2 times faster. So they're $60 to $75 an hour becomes $120 to $150 an hour on the glass. Yeah. Now, if we're running it 4 times faster, then that 60 to 75 is looking at up to $250 an hour. That's what our customers are feeding back to us. They can't get it all the time. It's only on the external glass, but they're getting numbers like that. Now, if you're going to wait until late majority, like when we talk about opportunity cost, you miss out on all these years. Or you're waiting until, say, oh, well, I'll just wait until Constructor's completely, there are no more improvements, which we don't even know if that place exists, right? Or whether automation will come in before that happens. So, but right now, you're missing out. You're holding yourself by not changing. Your income's not changing. And if you change now, even if you normally are late majority and you come in as an early majority now, then you're going to come straight in at 4 times faster than what you're doing now, right? But you've got to use the Reach It technique. You can't know better than us at this point, because we really know our shit right now. Because what happens is that sometimes guys will come in and then they'll go to use it the way they used, this brush, right? And when we first started with Constructor, remember I spent 18 hours a day available on Facebook, and I've fielded personally every single comment that's ever been made about Constructor, yeah? And so now we're able to coach people with our videos, the colored demos, the Reach It technique, SOP, and we're able to coach people exactly how to get the most out of Constructor, whereas if you go back to those early days, we didn't know all that. So people did know better than us in some things, or could challenge us and we couldn't answer. But right now we can say, we know how to clean glass fast. And so if somebody gets in and they're normally in this area here, then come back into here, buy Reach It Constructor and learn our way and clean glass fast.
Why is the Reach It technique so different looking? Why does it look so different to every other waterfed technique?
Let me show you this. So there is actually, I've got all the respect in the world for Tommy Tucker. He's the guy who developed the waterfed pole, right? And his first brush had over-the-top rinse. Mm-hmm. There's a video I just put out when I was in Australia in February.
All right, we'll link that below.
Yeah. And Tommy Tucker came out with a water-fed brush and a water-fed pole, and he had an over-the-top rinse bar, which was a spray jet, basically a fan jet from the carpet cleaning industry, I think, was what it was. And he knew that was the best way to clean glass, is if he could rinse the glass on the downstroke. But what he couldn't do is perfect how to not introduce the dirt into the rinse water from above.
Yep.
So the Tucker became a center rinse pencil jet brush. That's the founder of the industry. So what was I going to say?
Well, we're talking about why does the Constructor Brush technique, the Reagent Technique, look so different?
Yeah. So Tommy Tucker.
And then bring this out to here for the video.
Right.
It doesn't have to do the whole thing.
Then you can just cut it. So Tommy Tucker, right? If that was your window, Tommy Tucker's technique. So there is a Tucker technique. His technique was you wash the bottom of the window first, then you wash the top of the window second, and then you wash the whole window third, and then you come across and rinse. Yep. And that is the Tucker technique from 40, 50 years ago.
That's a lot.
Yep. And you've got still guys out there teaching. When we came into the industry, John Lee was teaching us this method, right?
Yeah.
For all of that. Okay, so let's take that away and say, well, that's history now, because that's all. There's
we'll come back to cycles.
There's
so
hundreds,
that's a lot of cycles.
Hundreds of yards of brush movement in that. So then let's go back and say Irregular Cone came out, and he was the guy who brought out the first squeegee. And so in order to get his squeegee to take water off the glass, he probably went tap, tap, tap at the top and pulled down, yeah, to get the water off the glass. But in the end, the squeegee guys worked out that most guys' technique is to go up to the center, across to the corner, and down. Then go up to the center with the
from here.
Go up to the center, across to the corner, and down. And then come back to the top and fan, remove whatever's in the middle. So that's not Irregular Cone's method. That's the total sum of the last 50 years of guys talking in a community, passing on information to each other, and educating, and then passing it down, through their workforce and things like that. So if you have a look at the Reagent Technique, like we walked away from the broom style brush by designing Constructor Brush. So now we have a window like this, and we can take Constructor Brush up to the center, across to the corner and down, up to the center, across to the corner and down. And if there is water in the middle,
because you didn't size the brush to be
say,
over the half of the middle.
Yeah, let's say your brush is like this, covering this area. It could be a 12-inch brush on the only one big window in the property. Then we'll come up and down
to clean up the middle.
And straight pull. Now, if you look at our early videos, like 2015, early 2016, you would see that we actually went up to the middle and fanned down. Remember that?
Yeah.
Right, in Tongtulu?
Oh, that's because the jets weren't close enough together.
Well, one, because the jets weren't close enough together, but two, because we were emulating that fan, which is what a squeegee does. But what we've found since then is that it's much more effective to do straight pulls, because the bottom of the brush, these bristles here, are actually taking the dirty water off the glass. And that's why we'll soon be introducing the ability, once we have these caps and the T's, we'll be introducing the ability to add water under the brush. So you add a volume of water under the brush, so then that down pull, you've actually got water there turbulating and pulling the dirty water off the glass. That leaves your hydro blade above the brush, leaving the pure water on the glass.
Are we just copying how squeegees clean windows?
No, I think we're learning, because the reality is that a squeegee can't clean a window. You need the mop first, right? And even if you use a wagtail or an accelerator or whatever, then they've got to flip, even though they've got the one tool, they flip them off and mop, and then they flip it over and then they squeegee. Yeah. And what we're able to do is say, no, in the same action, we can agitate and rinse.
So agitate and remove.
Yes.
Is a
Yeah, like all cleaning is, wet wipe, dry wipe. You have to remove the dirty solution. So the first step is to disturb concretions, excretions, and pollutions into solution, either by physical agitation or by chemical, one restore and things like that, and then remove that dirty solution.